Okay, let's do this. Oh my God, I have been waiting for this podcast so long. And I just have to say thank you. Thank you guys for waiting. Thank you for ushering me to do this. And I'm so excited because we're in our new home. Last time that I recorded a podcast, we were still in like this phase of major transition. And now we've moved. If you listen to the last podcast, so we did end up getting that house that I talked about, the one that had a cottage for my mom, the one that was in Hollywood, and that had, everything that we needed and that she needed. And despite it being a very hard transition, there were so many beautiful lessons learned and so many blessings along the road. And I'm grateful for us trusting, for me listening to my inner guidance of continuing to push forward and trust and allow myself to believe in the confirmation symbols that I kept seeing on the road. So welcome to Awaken to Reality podcast. My name is Veronica Barney, or Veronica Mejia Barney, depends on which country you know me in, whether Colombia or here. Welcome to this A Course in Miracles podcast that I decided to create to share with all of you my work in English, because so much of it is in Spanish, of my journey with the Course of now like 17 years, with the trust that it's also useful to your journey, that the experiences that I have been through enlighten your path and get you closer to deepening your study of the Course, but achieving that peace and that forgiveness and the joy that the Course promises us. So thank you for being here with me. And we're in our new office, so we will have a different background moving forward. I just have to show you this really quick. So I'm also an interior designer, and I haven't shared anywhere this incredible ceiling. It's coffered ceilings. So if you like anything design related, you might empathize. I am super excited about this. It's something that I really wanted to create, and it's in this office now, and it makes it look so pretty. So there's a little bit of my personal life. So today's topic for this podcast is, I did a poll on my Instagram like 2 weeks ago. And the options were a forgiveness story, where I am on my personal journey, and I don't really remember the other one. But anyway, the one that got the most votes was, where do I find myself in my spiritual journey, spiritual progress? And alongside with that, like I think either the next day or a few hours later, someone that I've been exchanging messages with for a little while, he was so sweet, and he's also a course student, very dedicated, and he sent me this question that said, how do you find yourself being so engaged in the world of activity and not be attached and make an idol out of it? And I just thought that it was such a good question, and like the perfect addition, like context to this topic of where do I find myself in my spiritual journey. So that will be on today's topic. I'm gonna share with you personal experiences as well as different quotes from the Course that I find just so helpful into for putting into context this whole experience and what it is to be human and to be on a spiritual journey where we're remembering that we're not human, that we're actually spirit. And how I live the Course in a very engaged with the world kind of way, because I do a lot of things. But spirituality is always the backdrop of all of them. So how do those two kind of merge together or not? So you will see. And before we dive into today's topic, I want to say a couple of things. So, one is now we're settled into the home. So my hope is to do podcasts more continuously. So if you guys want to comment, share, let me know what other topics you want me to talk about. I have a lot better ears now to be attentive to, your suggestions. And two, I mentioned in my last podcast that Maria Felipe was going to be in. I said the next podcast, but this is the next podcast. So it's really going to be in the next one that she's going to be in. And she just launched her book, Live Your Happiest. And I'm really, really excited to talk to her about that. And just overall, like, she is such an amazing person. And she's been a course teacher for many, many, many years. And I can't wait to share her with you guys. We're actually going to record the podcast in her home in Naples. We're like 2 hours away, and yeah, I'm super excited about that. So that is still coming. And for anyone that has Spanish speaking friends or Spanish yourself, I am going to be doing a dubbing of a podcast that Marianne Williamson, or it was an actual webinar that Marianne Williamson did with John Mundy on his platform. And that is going to be coming out soon. If you want to leave me your email, if you want a copy of it when it comes out, super enriching. That webinar was just like above and beyond. And I just said, you know what, I am going to dub this because it is incredible. And I know that a lot of people out there like appreciate Miriam's work and want to hear what she has to say in Spanish. So that will be available. And lastly, before we dive into our topic, I just want to quickly mention that another of the reasons why this podcast was delayed was because I took a trip to the West Coast to meet with the Foundation for Inner Peace and the Foundation for A Course in Miracles. I have been working with the Foundation for Inner Peace, the original publisher of the course, for like over 2 years now as the translator for their Spanish webinars. And it has been, such enriching and beautiful work. And I really wanted to meet with them in person because we've been working virtually for a while now, and I wanted to take the time to go out there and meet these people in person. So I will be sharing a little bit about that experience, not today, but on a other podcast. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's choice.is.power. Choice is power, but with little dots. Because I'll be posting stories. It was such a meaningful trip. It really meant the world to me. So I will be sharing, but that was another reason why this is like very delayed. At the same time, it comes at the perfect moment, in the perfect moment. And welcome to today's episode. I hope it is very helpful to you. Living in this world and practicing A Course in Miracles is not always easy at all. It's not meant to be easy because otherwise like everyone would do it and everyone would be enlightened. And no, we're not. We're still in the dream. And we're given all of these opportunities, through the different areas of our lives to continue waking up, to continue changing the purpose. Changing the purpose of, what the world tells us. Everything here is a conflict. Everything is for survival or to make special love or special hate. And now we're changing it to a purpose of forgiveness. And that is a very different purpose. And that's what the Course is guiding us towards. So at this point, I have been with the Course for over 17 years. So since I was 14 years old, and now I am approaching, I don't even want to say it, my God, 32. And the Course really has been my guiding pillar. I came to the Course in a way through my mom. She started practicing it when I was 8 years old. And then soon, through my own experiences of pain and of needing to look for a different path, I started doing the Course myself. And it's been an evolving journey of, well, first, like, I had to grow up and learn the things that we all learn to survive in this world, to go to school, to develop my ego in a way. But then with the Course, it's always been kind of like this double life of, like, I knew that me as Veronica and the dream figure had to grow, but also on the flip side, I knew that also Veronica within this dream figure had to undo. So it really has been an interesting journey since I have been in this since such a young age. But I can only be like absolutely grateful, because I feel like without the Course, I would have gotten really, really lost in the world and just, dove into believing that, everything is about money, that we're seeking bodily perfection, that it's all about power and fame and all of these things that the world constantly feeds us. But I also know that I was answering a deeper calling, because even when I was 8 years old, like, I started reading pages from the Course without my mom ever even telling me. And I just knew that that voice was speaking to me, and like I identified with its message so much. So I feel like, the Course tells us ultimately there is no reincarnation, but as the years have passed, like, there's more and more of me that recognizes that I have been perhaps in other lives on this journey for a long time. And that maybe that's what made easy me coming into this path at such a young age in this life. And so I think one of the greatest ideas that people have when one starts on a spiritual journey is this idea that you have to potentially change what you're doing in the world to make it look more spiritual, or that you have to change your behavior, the people you hang out with, how you look, all these things. And whereas in the beginning, I might have thought, yes, those are the things that the Course is asking of me, I quickly realized that that was not the goal. The Course is 1,000% an internal process of unveiling all of the layers of ego that we have thought to be our true self, and allow them to fall away so that we can remember who our true self really, really is. And think of those layers as not only like ego makeup, but also because it's not plainly seen. Like, it's not like, oh, I can pinpoint my ego, it's right here. No. But really where we see where our ego operates, let's say, is in the relationships that we have throughout our lives with our partners, with our work, with our hobbies, with our bodies. And when those relationships trigger us, that those are the opportunities for us to let go of our ego. And so for the most part, your situation on an external level doesn't have to change so that you can embark on this spiritual path. It is actually using those same experiences, but now looking at them differently with a different teacher, that is what will allow you to heal and to recognize your true self as you're able to sort out the ego from those experiences and actually see the truth within them. So I just want to read this real quick to you. This is from the Mindful Teachers, and it is called, it's actually a question. It says, are changes required in the life situation of God's teachers? it says, and this is part 9 of the Manual for Teachers, it says, changes are required in the minds of God's teachers. This may or may not involve changes in the external situation. Remember that no one is where he is by accident, and chance plays no part in God's plan. It is most unlikely that changes in attitude would not be the first step in the newly made teacher of God's training, meaning the first thing that probably is going to happen is changes in attitude. There is, however, no set pattern since training is always highly individualized. There are those who are called upon to make change in their life situation almost immediately. But these are generally special cases. By far, the majority are given a slow, evolving training program in which, and this is the key part, in which as many previous mistakes as possible are corrected. Relationships in particular must be properly perceived, and all dark cornerstones of unforgiveness removed. And that is really where the key is. So for me, there's a part in the Manual for Teachers also where it talks about the characteristics of the teachers of God, and it's talking about trust. And I feel like this episode, in a way, it's like enveloped by this theme of how are you developing trust that is kind of like the marker of where are you in your spiritual progress. And how much do you trust that where you are right now is where you will learn everything that you need to learn? And trust me, if you're still being triggered by something in your external environment, you still have learning to do. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that, you may be like in a very toxic relationship or, just a really not good situation, and you may choose to get out of that. But we're talking about the internal experience of being triggered. If you have moved away from that and you're still being triggered by it, well, there is still healing that needs to happen. So, for me, and this is a segue to answer this person's question that he sent me on Instagram. For a while, I think I was under this perception, in order to do my spiritual path, like I have to avoid the world. I have to avoid, being a normal person. I just have to dedicate myself to studying the course and teaching the course and looking and being as spiritual as possible. Well, you very soon kind of realize that that's not the way, because you end up kind of making an idol of that too. So I think I did that for like a couple of years. And then after that, I think I was about to move in with who is now my husband. And I was moving away from the course community where I was living in, and I was an active participant, both teaching and as a student. And we came into more of an unprotected environment, like no spiritual protection there. I didn't have a group. I didn't really know anyone. And I think that's really where my deeper journey and testing of the course began. I think I was like in my super early 20s back then. And is okay, where am I putting into practice all of these ideas that I am being taught? Where am I allowing myself to see where I'm being triggered and look at what it is that it is being aroused in me, and where do I have to let go? And how much are you trusting? So I finished my degree. I started working for a marketing company. Then I worked for like a restaurant. Then for a little while, I was only doing coaching one-on-one for the course. And then interior design kind of found me. And so that has been my profession in the world for the last 8 years. But the course has always been the backdrop to everything that I've done. And I'm gonna actually read you guys the response that I gave to the person who asked. By the way, shout out, this is Dushan. This was Dushan's question. So my answer to him, and again, I'm going to read his question again. He said, how do you find yourself being so engaged in the world of activity and not be attached and make an idol out of it? Because besides my interior design entrepreneurship, because I do that myself, lead the business myself, all of that, I also have a food brand it's in the process of making or about to launch, and that also takes a lot of time. And then I do my work with the foundation, so there's a lot of hats that I wear. And then, like, I'm a wife, I'm a dog mom. Now that my mom is living closer, there's a lot more things that I do with her and for her. And so yeah, it's a lot of things that draw me into the world. But what I love about it is that that's where the practice is. That's where the juice is. That's where we get to undo those ego layers that I was talking about, so that we can get to peace and we can get to meeting who our true self is. So my answer to him was, thank you for such a sincere question. It is, in fact, a daily task. I think the simple answer for me is I engage in the world like anyone would do, but I do my best to focus on the content of what I am doing, the relationships I have with the people I'm involved with the love I am giving them, the forgiveness that's being offered. Perhaps the fact that we're both on the same path waking up, and whatever the excuse is for the reason that we're meeting, it's just that, an excuse. And I try to keep top of mind that the real purpose is sharing a holy instant and remembering God's love. It is not always easy, as all of my commitments and things I am good at call me loudly into valuing form, but I'm just aware of it, aware when my ego wants to make a big deal of it, and then choose again and forgive myself when I don't. Your question is answered as a daily practice. I think ultimately that is our task, to be in this world, but not of it, but still accessible to others that they may hear. So I think it was like such an appropriate question that he so beautifully had the courage to ask, you know. It's like, really, how do we make this real in our everyday lives? Because we're all called to be in the world on some level or another, whether we're in an ashram or whether, you know, we're just a mom with her kids. And I think what I said to him in that answer of, I just keep trying to keep top of mind the content over the form, is so key. So for example, in the interior design work that I do now, it's all about aesthetics in a way, right? Like, I am interior designing your place, and it's, you know, what kind of furniture, what paint color, what wall application, this or that. And I love to do that. Like, I'm very creative. But what I keep top of mind is that the people that come to me, and it's so cool because I've been able to test this time and time again, right? That the reason why, like, there's always a deeper reason of why they're coming to me. Yes, they need their house designed. Yes, you know, they need help with redecorating their space. but there is a connection that happens on a deeper level. And maybe it can just be like at the end, they tell me, oh my God, the way that you handle that, like, gave me so much peace. Or, I just loved working with you. Like, thank you for facilitating this process for us. It's in the way that it happens. Like, it's not that I'm spiritually designing your space. Yes, I do ask for a lot of help, but it's deeper than that. So like when I meet with them, it's about the love that I'm experiencing with them in that moment, is the honor that I get to, being invited to their home to make these changes happen. And so as much as, yes, I want to give them the most beautiful house, I'm also thinking, how can I make this the most loving process for them? Because they're the son of God. They're not just clients to me. And that approach, which is what I talked in the beginning, like, it's the shifting of the purpose, right? When this world tells us, it's all about survival, I could be like, well, this is just another client that's going to make me money so that I can pay this and pay that. And, let's just get this project over as soon as possible. To changing it to a purpose of forgiveness, because like, one of the key components of forgiveness is that you have to remember who the other person is in truth, right? You have to let go of your judgments. You have to see the judgments that you've placed so that they can be replaced. And you have to remember who they really are. So right from the bat, before I meet any one of my clients, I really try to make that present. Like, this is not just a person that needs help on the form level. This is another me that I'm meeting. It's a part of God's son. And I want to honor that person. I want to love that person as much as I can, with the way that I talk to them, with the way that I deal with them, with the way that I organize their project, with the contractors that I will have coming to work on this project. And it's always an opportunity. And there is challenges that come up in these projects where I'm even more ushered to, okay, remember what the purpose is. Remember what the purpose is. Even sometimes when I always try to be like super on time with my project deadlines and all of that. And sometimes it's saying, you know what, we've done everything we can, but unfortunately, like, we cannot meet the deadline that we promised, and it's going to take us X amount of time longer. And so there is an opportunity of honesty. There is an opportunity of love that doesn't necessarily benefit me, but it benefits my relationship with the client on a level of trust, and like, hey, I'm the same as you. And it's so beautiful. Like, the other day I had this experience, and actually this has been like the most coarse, direct experience. And it's actually a client that I'm working with right now, that she is converting part of her home into a Reiki consultation studio. And we got to connect like on such a deep level, not only about her need for design, but also where she is at in her journey. And it was just like, oh my God, like, this is so cool. But it's not only when it's so direct. No matter how spiritual or non-spiritual my clients could be, wherever they are on that spectrum, it is always an opportunity for a holy instant. It is always an opportunity to remember God's love amongst us and not to focus on form so much. I always tell my clients, and this is kind of like, I don't know, my spiritual plug, is that I ask them, what is the purpose behind this redesign that you want? Like, what do you want to achieve with your family? Like, what is it that you feel like it's been missing, and you think that this design is going to help build that? Because if design, at least the way I look at it, right? If design is not helping you get closer to experiencing love within yourself and your family, then there's something lacking, because then it's just all about form. And I love kind of starting that inquiry process within them, because then they have the opportunity to, hey, like, I'm going to enjoy this process more. It's not just about having a beautiful front home facade. And I love that. I have really tried to make my job intentional, and it's worked really, really beautifully. And I will tell you how that plays out with my other entrepreneurial role, but I want to talk about something that's like more on a personal level, because where I still have the most forgiveness to do, or letting go to do, letting go of specialness, is within my personal relationship with my partner. There are moments where, the Course tells us so much unveiling needs to happen, and so much of that unveiling is your desire to be special, because then that says I am different from God. And on an unconscious level, we're trying to do that over and over again and represent that through our various relationships. And one in which it kind of springs up the most is in our love relationships. So let's say the pretty side of my relationship with my husband, and how I, let's call it, make it even deeper and more aligned with the Course, is we've been together for 12, almost 13 years now. And we love each other so, so much. And there are moments where the love is so deep and we're like in this intimate moment, just sharing. And I just look at him and I'm like, you are like the light of my world. Like, I love you. And there is a part of that is super sincere. But then there's also this part that is like, wow, and today this is going to end. Like, you're no longer going to be there physically, and you're no longer going to be the light of my world. And in those moments, it's really cool, because what I try to remember, and it leads me to like an even deeper experience with him, is I remember that it's not about the form, it's not about his face, it's not about his body. It's about like this deep love that we share that is a shadow of God's love, which through him is how in that moment I am remembering. But what I am truly remembering is God's love, and that is never going to go away. So it's really beautiful, because where there would be like this ounce of fear of, oh my God, one day this will not be here, then it leads to allowing myself to go deeper into that experience and reaching God's love, and allowing both of us to be encompassed by that experience of God's love through the relationship that him and I have. But then like it becomes this whole other thing, because it's not just what I have with him, it's a richer experience, and it's beyond our bodies. Like, it's not about the bodies. And when you can just like think of your partner and connect to that deeper love that goes beyond the story of your relationship, all of these things, and it's like, wow, there is a window for me to feel God's love. And so it takes the fear away, the fear of, oh, I'm going to lose you. It doesn't ruin the moment, because that's what happens when you start thinking, oh, and then this is going to go away one day. So that part I love. That's the pretty part. The not so pretty part, because also, like, if you look at Deshaun's question, how do you find yourself being so engaged in the world of activity and not be attached and make an idol out of it? So another way that you can make things an idol in this world is by special hate. So it's not only the things that you love, it's also the things that you hate. And if, like I mentioned before, if there is something that triggers you, you've placed an idol. Okay, if there's something that triggers you, you have made up an idol that you need to let go of so that you can let truth in. So another way in which an idol shows up is when my husband doesn't do what I want him to do, or doesn't treat me the way I think I should be treated. And that is like a huge red flag at times. And so remember when my answer to him was I engage in the world just like anyone does, but I'm aware when my ego tries to make a big deal out of it. Well, in that case, I try to be aware when my ego makes a big deal of my husband not treating me the way that I think he should treat me, or not doing the things that I think he should do, because he should already know that those are the things that I would appreciate, blah, 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 blah. And that is, it's my closest relationship. So that is where I have the most opportunities, and things continue to come up to this day for me to look at, those remnants, those shreds of specialness, that where like I rather, instead of focusing in the love, like, no, I wanted to make love an idol, and I wanted to make the love something specific for it to look this way, for me to be able to accept it. And, it is the loveliest trap. And in my experience right now is the one where I still have a lot of opportunities to grow into. And, we both do. If you're in a relationship, like that's where the work is, that's where the communication is. And that is where you get to be responsible for your feelings, and to look at your projections, look at, when your partner upsets you, you're looking at your own hidden hates and the things that you would judge yourself for, but can't accept it. And now it's just easier to judge them. So it's definitely a beautiful opportunity. It continues being like that for me. And sometimes it takes me a little more to come back to that place. Oh, wow, yes, this is an opportunity for forgiveness. And I will come out the other end winning once I go through it, right? Sometimes it takes me a little longer. But I do try to be mindful of that. And he's also a student of the course. So I think we both help remind each other of that. And I ultimately, I'm deeply blessed to have him and to continue learning in that way. I do have dark nights of the soul from time to time in regards to things that come up in our relationship. But every time, I tell you, every time I'm able to go past my ego and see the truth of the situation, it's like, oh my God, like I am seeing the Son of God. And the Course says what you see in your brother is what you see in yourself. And when you see the light in your brother, you will finally see it in yourself. That is exactly what happens. So there is that, my special love-hate relationship. Mostly love with my husband. Another point is, how do you, for example, in my case, we have been, let's call it, relatively successful on the things that we've been able to do in this world. Like, we have now 2 homes. My husband has a really good job. My business is doing really well. Then we have this other thing that we're launching. We get to travel, we get to do all these things. And so it looks like a really, really good life. I've also been in love with fitness since I was, oh my God, like almost as long as I've been in love with the Course. And let's say, I have a pretty cool looking body. And as much as my ego would love to take all of those really cool things, like, oh my God, your life seems amazing, to make a big deal out of myself, that's another thing that has shifted in my perspective. Because it's like, the purpose of all of this is not to become a bigger ego, but in a way you could say, it gives us an opportunity to be seen and to communicate this truth. So if anyone is let's say, attracted to the kind of life that we have, you bet at some point, and, very, very early on, like, we're always letting people know how important, like, the inner work that we do is for us. And all of my friends, the ones that I work out with and the ones that don't, they all know how deep into spirituality I am, and how having a cool body is great, but having a trained and peaceful mind is even more important. I think several years ago, I was very much attached to, what my body looked like, and dieting and doing like a ton of exercise, but always from the perspective of like, I have to fix my body, and this is the identity that I am. And this was like in the very early to mid years with the course. And then I always knew that, okay, I have to look at this differently, and not have it be such a big source of my identity, right? At least not so much. But there was like always like this clash of, oh no, but my body is the god, and I have to do this to protect it and make it look a certain way and all of that. And at some point that just kind of like started changing. And I'm so grateful that it did, because it is a lot of work to try, to mentally keep in your mind that, oh, I am this body. Like, you have to do so much protecting. And now it's funny, because externally you could say that to an extent I still do all those things, but it is through enjoyment and through love, through fun, and so really the purpose there has shifted. It's been, like, now working out is like more of a meditation to me, an opportunity to connect with myself. It's not about like, who's gonna see me or what. And Gary Renard has this really cool saying. I mean, it's not a saying per se, but it's something that he said in a talk. And it's basically like, at some point, like, our bodies are going to get all fucked up and we're going to die. Like, we're going to get old and probably sick, whether you're spiritual or not. And we're going to die. And it's all ephemeral. So it's like, how about you start building another home? And the home he's talking about is our home in our minds, our home in God. And the more that I've done that and given time to my mind training, the more that I have allowed to see the purpose of my body shift. To see it, yes, it's a means of communicating. It's a means of communicating with others. It's a means to giving love, whether it's just saying hello to someone at the gym, because I feel like people don't say hello to each other anymore. Just, it's an opportunity for kindness. And so, or, when you go to the supplement store and you buy something, like, again, what is the purpose? What is the purpose? What purpose are you giving it? And forgive yourself when you make an idol of it. Certainly there are moments, and it's like, okay, well, I got to choose again, because that is not what I really am. And that is not the home that I want to build, or that I want to invest so much in, so I'm still like a huge proponent of health and exercise and eating healthy and all that, but I'm so much of a greater proponent of what's in your mind, like, what are you doing? What are you giving attention to in your mind? And for me, the attention is, where am I building that home? Where's my mind? Where's my sanctuary? Where is, where do I go seeking for comfort? Do I go into my body and the things that it can give me? Or do I go into that quiet center in my mind where I know the Holy Spirit is and Jesus is? And it's such a shift. It's such a shift of purpose of, yes, you can use your body differently, although it may look like you're using it completely the same. It's again that part of what I read in the Manual for Teachers, like, are changes required? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes there's things that I don't do that I used to do. But for the most part, I've just been able to give everything a different purpose and allow, this is the greatest part, is allow the Holy Spirit to be able to use those experiences as your classroom in this world. That is the greatest thing. Allow my illusions, not feel guilty about them, but allow them to be used. And you will see how they're transformed. So lesson 155 says something really, really beautiful. And this is what it says. There is a way of living in the world that is not here, although it seems to be. You do not change appearance, though you smile more frequently. Your forehead is serene, your eyes are quiet. And the ones who walk the world as you do recognize their own. Yet those who have not yet experienced the way will recognize you also and believe that you are like them as you were before. The part I love about most, and it actually reminds me of my husband a lot, is this one. You do not change appearance, though you smile more frequently. He has a great smile. And I think it's beautiful, because if you just try that, if you just keep doing whatever you're doing, but smile more frequently, because not just like a fake smile, but because you're in touch with that deeper self, with that deeper knowing within you, that alone just changes you, and it changes whoever is around you, because you're reminding them of the happiness that's theirs too. And that's a beautiful thing. The world is an illusion. Those who choose to come to it are seeking for a place where they can be illusions and avoid their own reality. Yet when they find their own reality is even here, then they step back and let it lead the way. What other choice is really theirs to make? To let illusions walk ahead of truth is madness. But to let illusion sink behind the truth and to let truth stand forth as what it is merely sanity. And that could not be better put. I really, really love that, because what other choice, if you're on this path, do you have but to allow your illusions to be transformed, to allow for truth to come first before your illusions? And the way that I look at that on my everyday and the work that I do in all of the different areas is, God, I give this to you. I give all of these experiences to you, that you may be able to use them for my own awakening. I don't know how they're supposed to be used, but I do know that the purpose that I want them to serve is the purpose of my healing, my awakening, and that of the people that I will be involved with. And for me, having that purpose, again, reminded again and again in my mind, keep it top of mind, remember when I forget, that is the greatest thing, because you're allowing truth to be first. That is the purpose that you're having top of mind. And I guarantee you, if that's the purpose that you have top of mind, that is what your perception will be of the situations. That is the things that you will latch onto. And by so doing, you will have a completely different experience of the situations. What other choice is really theirs to make? Like, what else are we going to do? Keep riding the same ego wagon that like we already know where it's going to take us? Trust me, there's a huge temptation to do that because the ego is a very seated program within our minds. But we know that there's an alternative, and I want to choose, I am willing to choose that other alternative for myself. And what I'm going to read next is a little bit of this idea that we have to sacrifice something when we embark on a spiritual path. Because you will see that that is not the case. It's really a reframing that needs to happen. And it leads you to so much freedom. So much freedom. I think if there is anything that I would want to tell like young people about a spiritual path, is that you don't need to sacrifice anything. You don't need to change anything. Like, committing yourself to your own spiritual journey is only gonna make you better. Like, you will heal your mind, and alongside that, you will be able to be more successful. You will be able to be more effective. You will be able to have more peace. And from there, like, all of your doings in this world will change and be like triple powered. Like, seriously, you don't lose anything. You only gain. So, if truth demanded they give up the world, it would appear to them as if it asked a sacrifice of something that is real. Many have chosen to renounce the world while still believing its reality. You don't have to do that. And they have suffered from a sense of loss and have not been released accordingly. Others have chosen nothing but the world, and they have suffered from a sense of loss still deeper, which they did not understand. Why? Because when the only thing that you think you have is this body and the things that your body has acquired in the world, you will feel infinitesimally small. I think I am saying that correctly. Because deep down, you know that it's not going to last. Like, if that is your home, if it's only the body and the things that your body has acquired, it is such a lonely and depressing place. Like, it may not seem at times, but it really is. Because there's no soul. Like, there is no deeper meaning within that. Now it says, between these paths, between value only the world and value nothing of the world, is the path that the Course offers us. Between these paths, there is another road that leads away from loss of every kind. For sacrifice and deprivation, both are quickly left behind. This is the way appointed for you now. You walk this path as others walk, nor do you seem to be distinct from them, although you are indeed. Thus, hear this, thus can you serve them while you serve yourself, and set their footsteps on the way that God has opened up to you and them through you. So it is this path of assigning a new purpose to everything. And along with that comes more trust. More trust. You know, this whole move that happened with us to this new home. I think I told you in the last podcast that there was so much hesitation and uneasiness in regards to the home that we were almost under contract with. And I asked for guidance, and the guidance that I got was very simple. It was like 5 words. And it was simply look at more homes. And I can tell you this, the more that I've done this, the more that I'm able to hear. Like the more that I step back from my illusions of what I think things should result in, or the outcome that I may want for a specific situation, the more that I'm able to do that and sink into this gratitude towards God for everything that is perfect already and everything he has already put in us, the more I'm able to hear. And the chorus, I mentioned it also in the previous podcast, that when you just focus on that song of remembrance of God, there is an answer. There's a song that's sung back to you, and it's God's eternal song of love to you. But then in the world of form, it translates itself, or our mind accepts it as bits of guidance in the way, and or as however you need it most in that moment. And when I did that, the answer that I got was, look at more homes. And that was such a simple thing to hear, because I heard it when I wasn't looking for an answer. I was just open. I was open for guidance, and I was just simply in gratitude of letting my body self-identification go that needs all these things to be this way or that, and just there, open for listening. And that really was the guidance that made everything else happen. Because then from there on, everything was like super easy, and it just flowed. And another way in which I've received that kind of guidance is with my business partner, which is our Satan entrepreneurial business. It is it's called Nourish Life Foods, and it is basically a brand of health, of everything high protein, organic, and preservative free. It's a brand that we've been building now for a bit over 2 years, and it's been super cool. So in a moment, I'm going to share with you what was the guidance I received for that, because it also has to do with trust. And I'm going to preface that by reading this part, because it talks about temptation, and it talks about, we're on this path and we're trusting, right? We're trusting. And then you get these urges to control and not to trust, not to listen to guidance, and to basically just do things your way. And this is what it says. Walk safely now, yet carefully, because this path is new to you. And you may find that you are tempted still to walk ahead of truth. That is temptation, to walk ahead of truth, to think that I am a body and that I have all the answers and that I know that how things are supposed to go. Dreams are not a worthy guide for you who are God's son. Forget not, he has placed his hand in yours and given you your brothers in his trust, that you are worthy of his trust in you. He cannot be deceived. His trust has made your pathway certain and your goal secure. You will not fail your brothers nor yourself. So beautiful, right? There's nothing in A Course in Miracles that is not extremely beautiful. Even when Jesus is super descriptive about the bones and the skeleton and all of that stuff to make us look at our human condition and how amazing we think it is, but what it really is. But what I wanted to say with that is there are moments where I have wanted to walk ahead of truth. And one of those examples is with my business with Natalia. And so I am used to being much of a leader, of like this type A, super perfectionist, I'm the planner, I'm the organizer, all of this stuff. But like my friend pointed out, I'm involved with so many things. Like, I wish there were more hours to the day. And while we were in the process of moving, and so we were buying a new home, which was like an hour away, and we were also getting our other home ready for rental. And oh my God, there was so much happening. The insurance, the new tenants, having to show the house like every other day and have everything super clean and set up and show ready. Which also I had to let go of some of that. That was a forgiveness lesson for me. And at the same time, Luis is working full time. I'm working with my projects. Our launch for the brand was supposed to happen in January, but then it got delayed because we had a labeling issue. And then Natalia moved, and then I was moving. And there were so many things, and this business still required us to do certain things. We had to file our taxes. We had to address this label issue. We had to order ingredients. And I was at a point where I was like, oh my God, like, how am I going to do all of this stuff? And so mind you that I knew that my business with Natalia is something that was meant to happen within my experience, because the way that it came and the way it's always been, it's like I know that it's so much bigger than us. And it was always like, yes, we're meant to do this together, right? But then the planner in me kicks in and is like, oh, like, I need to make us a business plan, and I need to be the one that, has all of these options and alternatives and ideas of how we're going to be successful and all that stuff. And it was just like draining me so much. I was like, how am I going to make all of this work? Right? Because this is like a hobby that, we still haven't launched. We still are not making any money. So like and I'm super dedicated to my design business. That's not something that I plan on leaving anytime soon. And so it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I remember that one day, like, we were going to have a meeting, and the previous day I was just like with 1,000 things to do. And I'm like, when am I going to like have time to really do this? And I got really, really quiet. I got really just like, wow, I need to let go of all of this. It is not my own doing. It is not my own answer. And I was just thinking of her, thinking of me, what we've built together, and feeling, all of this overwhelmness, but also this opening of like, okay, how do I make this work? How is this the best for both of us? Like, let me find the truth within all of this. And a little while later, I heard the most beautiful and simple answer that I could have heard. And it was, do your part, she will drive it. Like, so simple. Do your part, she will drive it. And I tell you, that gave me so much peace. So much peace. So much peace. Because it's like, oh, I get to step back from being this leading horse that is constantly huffing and puffing and, making everything work. No, you don't have to do any of that. Just do your part. And I'm like, I can do that. I can, like, we meet weekly and there's like these tasks that we have. And, she does her thing, I do my thing. And it's like, I can do that. I can do that. But you see, like, it wasn't even the things I had to do. It was like my own mental perception of like, I have to drive this, right? And, we're 50-50 in the business. And it's like, she is completely capable as well. And in fact, like, she has so many qualities that I don't. And it was just like, just do your part. Like, it'll work out. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you. And it's beautiful because then we met and that was all I did. I did my part, and sure enough, we're contributing ideas to each other, and it's just happening. Like, and I haven't even shared this experience with her. I actually have to, but it was just like, let it be, follow one step in front of the other and it'll happen. Like, stop stressing. You're not leading this. And guess what? If you're like me, like, you think you have to be in front of everything, guess what? That guidance applies. Okay. And I'm not going to say it applies to you because, Holy Spirit gives your guidance to you. I'm not going to say that I'm giving you guidance, but, that applies to everything. So that also applies to my design business, my relationship with my partner, all of these things. Like, it applies to everything. Just step back, allow yourself to be shown. Stop making all of these idols and of all these plans that you're not in control. And, that's not to say don't have a business plan, don't make plans. It's the anxiety behind it. And my husband tells me this sometimes. He's like, it's not what you're saying, it's the anxiety with which you're telling me. And it's like, I know, because I think it's me that it's supposed to do. And one of the greatest things about this course is it teaches you not self-reliance, or better put, it's self-reliance, but on God, on guidance, on the Holy Spirit, of stepping back, realizing where you've put idols, realize that they don't give you anything you really want, letting them go, and then allow something else to take place. Allow the miracle to take place. To let the miracle be the thing that replaces fear. For there to be love where there was fear before. And then everything shifts. Like, it's literally like a whole new energy. If you're interested, I'm happy to give you the links and all of that. We're launching this super cool, I don't know if you know what seitan is. It's basically a mix of organic vital wheat gluten, pea protein, dehydrated vegetables, from which you can make your own plant-based meat. Super cool. Natalia, both and I are vegan, and we just found ourselves joined in this purpose to do this because we always wanted to do it, but we never thought we could do it on our own. Anyway, so it'll be launching soon, and I continue to learn through it, to be on my spiritual path through it, as well as through everything else that I'm doing. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about purpose. Because this part, it's from chapter 30, and it kind of exemplifies what I was just saying. So it says, the real world is a state of mind in which the only purpose of the world is seen to be forgiveness. So we can say the fake world, the world of illusion, is the one over here where we say, everything here is for survival, kill or be killed. Make the world the determining factor of your happiness and make all these external circumstances what is your reality. Yeah. And now it says the real world, which is where we're training our minds to be in through being in this constant purpose of forgiveness. And it's also within like the course context, a very high state to achieve. You get to the real world once all of your mind has forgiven everything that it has to forgive. It has forgiven all of your unconscious guilt through forgiving all of your experiences within the dream. But that's where we're aiming. So the real world is the state of mind in which the only purpose of the world is seen to be forgiveness. Fear is not its goal, for the from guilt becomes its aim. So the escape of guilt, meaning wherever you haven't forgiven, there is an ounce of guilt that's being hidden, because when you hate your brother, you judge your brother, you feel guilty. Why? Because he represents God on one level. It means you are also in judgment of God. But also because that is where you are denying yourself love. It's a representation of you believing that you did separate from God and you have projected it outside. So now you say, oh, the reason why I don't love is because you have done this or that. But in reality, it's because you don't love yourself because you think you have separated yourself from God, but you've split the guilt. So you've put it somewhere else. And the way to undo that is to forgive, where you say to your brother, basically, what you are doing is not stealing the peace of God away from me. Therefore, you're innocent, and therefore I am innocent. And in your innocence, I remember my own. Fear is not its goal, for the escape from guilt becomes its aim. The value of forgiveness is perceived and takes the place of idols, which are sought no longer, for their gifts are not held dear. And I love that, because it doesn't say like you have to renounce everything and not take enjoyment of the world. It just says those gifts are just not held dear. It doesn't mean you don't partake in them, but it means that you're looking beyond. Like what you're focusing is in the love that is experienced through forgiveness, in the love that is experienced by you seeing the innocence of your brother. And that is such a gift that does not compare to the gifts the world can give. That does not compare to the amazing thing of finding this gorgeous island to go to and staying in the best hotel and having all the money to splurge on your vacation. Like, those kinds of gifts are not what is most valuable at all. Doesn't mean don't have the experiences, but then who are you with and how are you seeing them? Like, that is the real gift, and that is the real focus. It's always an invitation to forgive, which means to undo the guilt, escape from guilt. Because again, when you deny love to a brother, you feel guilty because they are you. You're denying it to yourself as well. You're leaving yourself empty and then them empty as well. When brothers join in purpose in the world of fear, they stand already at the edge of the real world. Perhaps they still look back and think they see an idol that they want. Yes, and we all do this. Oh, having a house now in front of the ocean would be amazing. Okay, sure. Forgiveness now is more important. Yet has their path been surely set away from idols towards reality. It doesn't mean you may get that. Yeah, but it's your mind. Where is your mind going? Where is the investment in your mind? And I'm going to finish with this last paragraph because it puts things into perspective again. So this talk has been, how are you in the world without making an idol out of it, and also where I am in my spiritual journey. And it's this invitation here that I think kind of sums it up, because I know that I still have to go deeper, and there is idols that I still have to let go of, like I mentioned in my personal relationship and other things. But it's like you have to get clear on what it is that you want to let go of and what it is that you're truly welcoming, because that's where your inspiration comes from for doing this work. Look back no longer, for what lies ahead is all you ever wanted in your heart. Give up the world, but not in sacrifice. And again, it's not literally telling you to give up the world. It's just the purpose of you thinking that the world is everything. And that is where your happiness lies. I mean, also, it is talking about like literally, like you're on the ladder and you're climbing back up to God. From that macro perspective, it is telling you to give up the world. And that is something that if we truly want to wake up, like we will have to ultimately do. But in the meantime, that's the offering that we have in each moment. I don't know if everything that I'm saying makes sense to you, but I hope that you feel it, because words don't do justice to this experience. And like the Course says, seek only for an experience that will show you the truth. Give up the world, but not to sacrifice. You never wanted it. What happiness have you sought here that did not bring you pain? What moment of content has not been bought at fearful price in coins of suffering? Joy has no cost. It is your sacred right, and what you pay for is not happiness. Be speeded on your way by honesty, and let not your experiences here deceive in retrospect. They were not free from bitter cost and joyless consequence. Do not look back except in honesty, and when an idol tempts you, think of this. Like whenever you're tempted to build a home of idols, to build a home of form, think of this. There never was a time an idol brought you anything except the gift of guilt. Not one was bought except at cost of pain, nor was it ever paid by you alone. Every time that I build an idol, either through special love or through special hate, it's always given at the cost of guilt. So through special love, now I say, oh, this external thing here is the source of my happiness, not the kingdom of God. And that will lead to guilt. And in special hate, well, now I put my power away and I say, you know, you are the guilty cause of my suffering. And what I'm saying is I am not God's son. I am refusing to accept my real identity. And that will cause me to experience guilt. Because if I'm not my real identity, then that means I am not at one with God. And on a very deep level, we know that God is only love, which means that he would never make us be separate from him. So if I feel separate from God, that is something that I am choosing. And that will lead me to guilt because I am choosing it. So that's why it's saying it never brought you anything except the gift of guilt. Despite how beautiful in the form or how righteous you may feel and get some joy from that. We get one opportunity this time. And, you know, if you're hearing this podcast, I think you're on the path to devotion of truth, devotion to truth. And there is nothing more fulfilling than that. So I support you in your current forgiveness lessons, because behind them is your reality, is your truth, and is your freedom, and also of others. Because remember, we are connected. We are really one. You know, it's this dream of multiplicity, but it's really one sun that is remembering to wake up. So the more that you do it, you are opening the door for others to do it in their own will. And the gift is enormous. So I leave you with that. Thank you for tuning into the podcast today. I will leave in the show notes what I read today. I hope it was helpful. I hope it didn't confuse you. And that you're inspired, to put truth before your illusions, put truth before your work, before your relationships. That's a purpose that I always like to set in the mornings. I am really intentional about spending my quiet time in the mornings to do precisely that, because it is such a gift that just keeps on giving. And I hope that you're inspired to open yourself to that, to be a light in this world and, look like everyone else, do what everyone else does, or whatever it is that, you do in your own personal life. It may look completely different from mine, but you have a gift to share, and that gift can only be given when you put truth before you. And collectively, we let go of our egos, because it doesn't serve us, and it's not who we really are, and it's not how we want to identify. So thank you for tuning in. I will see you in our next podcast. And remember, if you want to stay in touch, Instagram is the best way. choice.is.power. And I will see you around. Thank you for your own commitment, your own devotion to this practice. And I send you all of my love and all of my gratitude.